Welcome everybody, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. If you're new to my channel, please click the subscribe button and help support my channel. And as an added bonus, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music. All right, we're going to take a look today at two different Dokken albums that are actually the same. We've got the original 1981 release that came out under Don Dokken's solo for Breaking the Chains, and then the later 1983 remix that was partially re-recorded. That is, of course, the classic version that we know. There's some interesting differences between these that I want to go through here. So the band formed in 1979, and they released a 7-inch single the same year. They then later worked with German producer Michael Wagner on a demo that would later resurface as Back in the Streets. On a side note, Don Dokken gives you permission to steal or copy this album because he says he receives no money from it. It was actually stolen and released without his permission. In 1981, Don Dokken returned to Germany in an attempt to secure a record deal for the band, and the band now consisting of Don Dokken on vocals and guitar, George Lynch on guitars, Juan Croucier on bass, who would later go on to play bass with Rat, Mick Brown on drums, and then the band again worked on demos with Michael Wagner, and these demos were able to actually secure them a record deal with the German label Kari Records. And so Michael Wagner at this point was back in the production chair for their debut recording, along with Dieter Dierks of Scorpions fame, who would factor in a little bit later here. The album was initially released in 1981 under the name Don Dokken as a solo release. This one here that I was pointing out at the beginning. Now during this time, Don would work with the Scorpions due to that connection with Dieter Dierks on demos for the album Blackout, as vocalist Klaus Meine was actually suffering from some vocal trouble and later to have surgery on it. They didn't actually know if he would recover, and so there was a small chance that Don Dokken could have actually become the new lead vocalist for the Scorpions. And of course, we could be having a very different conversation here if that had transpired. But back in the US, Don Dokken and the band Dokken were working on securing a record deal there, and their new management, Cliff Bernstein, who would later work with Metallica, was able to secure them a deal in 1983, and they signed to Elektra Records. And so the 1981 album was then re-recorded partially and remixed, and then later now re-released in 1983 with this new sound. And so while the band was very popular in Europe, the album barely did anything in the US. Of course, all that would change in 1984 with the release of Tooth and Nail, but that's a whole other story. So let's take a look first at this one here, the Don Dokken version of the album, under the title Breaking the Chains, and it's spelled with I-N and not the I-N-G as the later version would, so different spelling to the title, and of course name under Don Dokken there. And this one here being the original mix of it, it's got a more straight ahead rock version of it, less layers to it. It's almost like a demo version of the 1983 album. And there were two pressings of it at the time. There was a German pressing and then a French pressing that had a more full sound that was more like the future Dokken sound that we would know. And then the track listing is in a different order, and there's some different songs as well on it. So there's a studio version of Paris is Burning, simply called Paris on this one, and the track We're Illegals would later change to Live to Rock. It would develop into a different version of that song. And so before we move on, let's just take a quick look at this. Since this is the different version here, you can see the full title there for Don Dokken and the different spelling. Here's the back side of it. It's got both the German and French pressing. It also comes with a bonus DVD in it of a 1982 show in Germany. There's no booklet, but there's some cool photos here on the underside of this. And then if we flip this over here, we see the underside of it there. And then moving over to the 1983 version of this album, that is, of course, the classic that we all know. It's now released under the band name Dokken, and the title being fully spelled out with the ing on the end of breaking. And then the album itself was remixed and partially re-recorded, adding to the instrumentation and improving the vocal harmonies on it. And the mix is a much fuller, layered version of the album, giving it a much bigger sound. And while the first album had more in common with the 1970s sound, this one is fully entrenched in the 1980s sound. The song Stick to Your Guns is fully re-recorded here, and the song We're Illegal was received new lyrics and was changed the title to Live to Rock, Rock to Live. It's a hard rocking song with a shout and response chorus, much in the vein of the song Tooth and Nail. And with the lyric change of Live to Rock, Rock to Live, I think it works much better with the melody of the song too. And then the song Paris was changed to Paris is Burning on here. And in addition, instead of using the studio version of the song, they opted for a live version that was recorded in Berlin in 1982. And it also features a blistering guitar solo intro that, of course, has become synonymous with that song. And so, bottom line for the two of these here, while the original version of the album is less polished and feels more like a demo, I think it's the missing link between the 1983 album that we know and this forthcoming archival release that Dokken's getting ready to put out called Lost Songs 1978 to 81, and it's due out August 28th of 2020, so check that out. When I was first listening to Lost Songs, it didn't sound like the Dokken that, we all know. However, listening to this 1981 mix of the album, I think I can now hear the development of the band from the 1978-81 Lost Songs to the 1981 mix, then to 1983, which is what, of course, they've become known for. And so, while the mix of the 1983 album is really good, and I do like that, I actually think that the 1981 mix of this album works far better. And so I'm quite partial to this 1981 Kari Records version that came out in Germany over the 1983 more polished version that is the classic version. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you did, please leave me your comments, let me know your thoughts. I hope everyone has a great day, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Take care. Bye-bye.